Come as you are, as a friend, as an old enemy. Take your time, hurry up, choice is yours.
Anyway, that's been my review of Quantum Break on the Xbox One. My name's Christopher Connor, and wait. I did this review, right? Let me figure out what's going on. I'll fix this, and you watch this one. Okay, so got everything fixed. So anyway, I remember back in the early days of the Xbox One when that whole dumpster fire was going on.
Fortunately, we have a product for people who aren't able to get some form of connectivity. It's called Xbox 360.
Right. Stick with 360. That's your message. If you don't, like it.
There weren't a lot of games people were really excited about coming exclusively to the Xbox One. This was back when it looked like a VCR. Phil Spencer hadn't been in for very long, and we only had a couple of exclusives we were really excited for. One of which was Quantum Break, which was this weird like time travel type thing from Remedy. Now, I just finished playing an Xbox exclusive from Remedy called Crossfire X Operation Catalyst. It wasn't good. But I knew Remedy did some great games, and so I decided to check out other games in their library, and I landed on Quantum Break. And there's a lot of really fascinating things with this game. Not all of them are executed well. And so, first I was like, one, when they were like announcing this game, like, just something I noticed was the main character looked absolutely nothing like the main character that's actually in the game. It was like they hadn't decided on who the actor was going to be yet. So I kind of found that funny. It kind of alludes to them having a hard time like getting the project together. I don't know. We'll have to wait till someone on YouTube does like a video on that one day or whatnot. But the surprising thing to me was that apparently it's tied with Alan Wake in some way, because like all throughout this game there are all these like little like Easter eggs to Alan Wake, like the novels ran by him, and like in the university there's like this entire lecture hall where the chalkboard is just covered with like a professor that was talking about the author Alan Wake. So apparently this is connected to Alan Wake, and I guess the game Control is connected to Alan Wake in some way. So apparently this is all like kind of a extended universe of Remedy games. So is Crossfire X connected to Quantum Break and Alan Wake and, you know, Control? Is Max Payne connected to these at all? I don't know. So I found that kind of interesting. And, like, the story is okay for the most part. It's your typical time travel has broken time, and now we have to fix it. And so, like, we've seen time travel stories like this before, but it gets kind of interesting when two of the characters get, like, these crazy time travel powers. And, of course, one's the antagonist, one's the protagonist. And what also is interesting is, as you get more and more into the story, when you finally get to Act 4, it becomes so fascinating. And so, like, I was just kind of going through the paces through Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, and then when Act 4 happened, there were these little notes you can get throughout the world that will help, like, fill in backstory for you. When Act 4 started happening, like, this one moment happened in Act 4, I was immediately like reading every note I could because like, oh, okay. And so I'm like just reading everything, like trying to figure out more of what's going on. And so I really did like that. Act 5 also does something like this, but they don't really elaborate on it. Like, case in point, late Act 4, early Act 5, they introduced this concept of like a new enemy type, but they never elaborate on it. It was like they teased it, and that was it. And like that would have been really interesting. It would have been a little bit like Uncharted, how partway through the game they introduced like this drastically new enemy type in that game, and it was just like completely flips the game around. And I thought that would have been interesting if they did that with Quantum Break, but they don't do that. And so maybe they ran out of money, or they wanted to have a tease for like a sequel. I don't know. I did, however, like the tease for a sequel when they added the game. It was like kind of a fitting conclusion to the story, so I did like that. And then like going on to like the main antagonist, like one of the things I liked about the main antagonist is played by I can't pronounce his name. This guy, he was in Game of Thrones. He always plays a bad guy usually. One of the things I liked about this game was you could actually kind of influence what kind of bad guy he was. So you could have him like just a complete asshole, or you could have like tried humanizing him with some of the dual decisions you get at the end of each act. So basically how this works is you finish Act 1, and essentially you take control of him temporarily, and he needs to make one of two decisions. And since he has time travel powers, he can kind of see the outcome of the two decisions. And typically these decisions will kind of have a good vibe to them and a bad vibe. I won't say they're a good choice, bad choice, because he is the main antagonist in this game. But you get these kind of like choices where like you can either just have your men be completely authoritarian and like just start shooting citizens, or you can have them start manipulating them through a PR campaign. And you know, there are pros and cons to each. And I really enjoyed these moments because it allowed me to develop the villain how I wanted to see the villain. So I kind of wanted to have the villain be more of someone who thinks he's right. If you've ever like heard about those types of villains, like villains who believe they're right, I kind of find those villains to be more fascinating. And so through these like dual choices you get with the end of each act, you kind of get that, and I enjoyed that aspect. I kind of wish they did a little bit more with it. And if they ever do a sequel to this, I'd like them to do more with that again. Now, this game is very graphically stunning for the Xbox One. I mean, this thing is beautiful at times. The downside is it has a lot of slowdown and inconsistency. So like I saw moments where textures weren't popping in right. I saw moments where like it was really slowing down. There was a really annoying bug where during some cutscenes it'll break, and so the audio is not lined up with the lip syncing and the movements, and so someone would just have their mouth moving and then you hear what they were saying. And so, you know, like that was really disappointing, and like there's some graphical glitches. I don't think the game ever crashed on me, so I guess that was a problem earlier when this game came out, and it's not a problem anymore. And then like my biggest graphical issue was that the game always looks like has this washed out grainy feel to it. Even the live action episodes, the cutscenes, the gameplay, like there's this like film grain that is always on in the game, and it kind of ruins the visual experience because this is a very beautiful game. I can tell it's a beautifully crafted game, but it's ruined by this film grain that is on everything. And so it's very disappointing that you couldn't take that off. Maybe on PC you could go into like the the graphics or like the source code and remove that film grain, because I mean it's just really distracting at times. And then another thing that's just kind of odd, I guess they didn't have time to work on this, the character models' eyes. Now character models look really good. I mean, Sean Asmore, Iceman looks like himself. It doesn't look like a cheap video game attempt like you saw in the early 2000s. It really looks like the actor and actors in this game. Lance Reddick, Aidan Gilligan, I think that's how you pronounce it. They all look like themselves, except for their eyes. their eyes are so weird as shit. I mean, their eyes, they're dead eyes, they're like a doll's eyes. It's just, they just look so wrong on so many levels. Now, one thing interesting about this game is it's half game, half live action series. And we're technically more game than live action series because they do an episode in between each of the acts. There are 5 acts, 4 episodes. So, more gameplay than there are episodes. And it's kind of an interesting concept, but obviously it wasn't a good executed concept because no one's ever done this since. So, but like, one weird thing is that the live action series is streaming only unless you do a 75 gigabyte install, which allows you to play it offline. So I like there's that option for people who live in the middle of nowhere and have no internet, or just can't do streaming of any kind. So it's nice that they can do the 75 gig download, but at the same time, it's 75 gigs. That is a lot of space. It's bigger than the game itself. The game is only like 50 something gigs. So that is insane that the live action series is bigger than the fucking game that is longer than the live action series. Usually it would be the other way around. But the neat thing is that the live action series changes due to the choices you make as Paul Serene, who's the main antagonist. So there are different episodes you can see, and this does add to some pretty cool replayability. You could like do all like left answers your first time through, and then you can do all right answers your next time through, and so you have some replayability in that aspect. The gameplay is exactly the same no matter how you do it, but the live action series and those moral choices do let you get a different experience each time, and so that's pretty neat. And so the live action series mixed in with the gameplay was an interesting concept, but it wasn't executed well. The series felt like a primetime Fox network show that had a very limited budget, and so like case in point, there's a car chase scene they do in the live action series, and it is absolutely laughable how bad this car chase scene is, because they do all these quick cuts and then the cars never go over 10 miles an hour. You heard me right. They never go over 10 miles an hour. It is ridiculous. And then another weird thing is that like the presentation for the game is really high quality, but the presentation for the series is really low quality. And so like some of the costumes look weird, like they don't look good. Some of like the uniforms don't look right. The civilian clothing looks good, but like some of the Monarch like officer uniforms just look thrown together and cheap as hell. And then another thing that's really obnoxious is like the live action series, apart from some cameos, focuses on unnecessary secondary characters. Like characters I don't care about. Yeah, you'll see a cameo with the main character who's played by the guy who plays Iceman in the live action show, and there's like a couple of scenes with like the main cast of the game, but the show follows these secondary characters, and like I don't care. And these episodes are like 22 to like 25 minutes long, so they do drag on for quite a bit, and just honestly, I did not care for these live action episodes. And then another thing I didn't like is some of the characters in the live action show are super annoying as hell, including this like IT hacker guy. I did not give a rat's ass about him whatsoever. And so it was just like, can we move on from this, please? Now, in terms of gameplay, the game is actually a lot of fun. You get to play around with these really awesome time travel powers. And you also are dealing with like the environment, dealing with time travel, so you'll literally like be in the middle of like this destruction area, and it'll constantly be shifting like back and forth, and so you have to like navigate that frozen in time while that's moving in time. And so you have some really interesting like platforming segments, and then like combat's pretty cool because you could like move faster than enemies, and you can like freeze them in time and do cool tricks with your guns and whatnot. And so that's really cool. I could have used some more melee focused time travel powers. You only kind of get one, and I could have used a little bit more in that area because there was some real cool potential with that. One thing I didn't like though was you have these like glyphs you can find throughout the environment that helps upgrade your power so you can be stronger and faster and tougher, but they never explain to you that there's like a little radar indicator when you use your time vision. I don't know why it's called time vision, and like you can follow that radar indicator to them. And so like for the first act and a half, I didn't know about that radar system, and so like there was nothing explaining me you should use your radar system because I didn't know I had one. And so I could have upgraded my character a lot more earlier in the game, and that's very easy to overlook. You can actually go through a lot of the game without even knowing that you can upgrade your powers, and so that I thought could have used a little bit more work. But so, ultimately, Quantum Break was a fun single-player experience. If you find this game for dirt cheap, absolutely pick it up. It's only exclusive for Xbox One, so that's unfortunate. Maybe it might get re-released on other consoles down the road, but I don't think this was super successful, and that's kind of unfortunate because this is a stunning game. There's some really good there's some good voice acting in it, along with some bad voice acting in it. But there's some great moments in it. There's some really good writing, especially in Act 4, that absolutely captivated me. And I would have been curious where a sequel would have gone after this. And so overall, I did really enjoy this. I will probably play this again at some point, and definitely I would say this is worth owning. So that's been my review of Quantum Break on the Xbox One. My name is Christopher Connell with 11 Hour Reviews, and that will be all.